Okay, hello again, boys and girls, Alpanites. The king is here. Now, in my video from yesterday, the one I made about the first Asian Cup quarterfinals, it was, like I said, it was my first video and it was a little rough around the edges. So I want to correct some of the mistakes that I made yesterday. First of all, of course, as I get older, my memory is not as how it used to be. So apparently, I was mixing up the dates of the 94 and 95 NBA finals. So actually, I was mixing up the teams, not really the dates. So the 1994 finals were between the Knicks and the Houston Rockets, right? So I think I in my previous video I said that was the 95, but that's the 94 finals, and actually that was the final, one of the rare finals that went for the whole 7 games, and after 7 games, Houston won the series. Sorry, yeah, Houston actually won the series 4-3, right? So what a series it was! I mean, such a memorable, both from the side of the Houston and the Knicks, right? And the 1995 finals were a little bit more one-sided. It was between the Rockets again defended their title, but it was between the Rockets and the Magic, and Rockets basically swept the Magic 4-0. Again, for my younger viewers, they will be surprised. I mean, if you consider the current situation of the Houston Rockets, they're like the absolute worst team in the NBA currently. I think they had like the lowest winning total last year or something in the league, right? So I think it would be very hard for these people to imagine how a team like Houston Rockets could become champion. Well, like I said, back in the day, you could be a champion. You had star players, and if you could make a very effective team around those star players, you could have easily won NBA championships. And in fact, the funny thing is, I was actually thinking about this before I started the video. The current dominant team, like the Golden State Warriors or the Cleveland Cavaliers, they were like actually quite bad teams. They were basically in the status of the current Rockets or Knicks in the 90s. So it's weird how the power of the teams kind of changes over the years, right? So worst teams like Golden State and Cleveland suddenly became dominant, in the 2010s, 2020s, while uh, dominant teams like the Rockets or the Magic became like very horrible or very bad teams these days, right? So it's a kind of an unusual situation. I mean, I remember back in my day, when I was when I was really following the NBA. Sorry about that. When I was really following the NBA and Golden State, I mean, Golden State had like two players, Latrell Sprewell and Tim Hardaway. Tim Hardaway Sr., as you know, his son is playing now, and they were basically that was the team, and also Chris Mullin, of course. Let's not forget Chris Mullin. Chris Mullin was a good name, and so that was basically the team. And they weren't a very memorable team. They barely made, or I don't even remember if they made the playoffs during the 90s. So they were like a middle of the road, very average team in general, not like the Golden State of today. The same, of course, comes through for Cleveland. Cleveland was like a bad team, but I think they made one or two playoff appearances in the 90s. But they basically had guys like Tyrone Hill. Many people don't remember Tyrone Hill, but he was an excellent rebounder. And Terrell Brandon in his early years was in Cleveland, but again, they weren't a very memorable team, right? Like that. So again, this was kind of I talked about this to give you kind of an idea how the dynamics change over the years, and or changed over the years in the NBA. Is it for the better or for the worse? That's up to the people to decide. Personally, I don't like the very modern aspect of NBA too much. I prefer, you could say you're a nostalgic or you live in the past. Maybe yes, but I prefer the NBA of the 90s a little bit more. I think something got lost. The modern NBA it became a little. I think it's getting better. It's becoming more physical again because somewhere in the mid 2010s, I think it lost its physicality aspect as well. So it became worse, but I think it's getting better, and maybe it's getting a little bit more watchable in the upcoming years. So to return to our main subject, as you know, I was reviewing the Asia Cup quarterfinal matches. Yesterday, I reviewed the match between Iran and Jordan, and it was a good game. And today, I'm going to continue by reviewing the second quarterfinal between China and Lebanon. So again, I think the result of this game was quite a surprise for many people because I think most basketball watchers or basketball lovers, I should say, expected China to win. I mean, China's basketball history. You got guys like Yao Ming, who dominated the NBA, Wang Zhuzhu, and the mid 2000s. They had the very dominant Chinese teams in the Asian area. Of course, many NBA players or basketball players also during their last years went to play for the Chinese league. Chinese league is, yeah, you could say one of the more prestigious basketball leagues out there. So imagine, I think everybody's surprised when they heard the final score 72-69. It's actually Lebanon won the game 72-69. It's actually quite a lower score. You could say a lower scored game for the tournament. So to start off, let's look at the things from Lebanon side. I think, first of all, I should say Lebanon's win shouldn't surprise anyone. Lebanon is a very solid team. And, before I started watching the Asia Cup, I was kind of, unsure about Lebanon. I didn't know what to expect from the team, but after I watched, their group games and now their quarterfinals, I'm very impressed. I have to say this. I mean, it's one of the teams that work like clockwork, basically, you can say, right? So everything goes according to plan, and they make it go according to plan. So that's the, I think, bigger part of the success of the Lebanon team. All the players know their exact roles, and they play according to their roles, and nothing more. I think this is the biggest point for success, biggest reason for success. If you know your role and if you can play according to your role, and then you become you appreciate your role in the team, and then that team becomes very, very successful as a result. So we see this success in Lebanon. Of course, when talking about Lebanon, we have to give special credit to a guy named Wael Arakchi. Again, definitely, I think the top choice for the MVP of the tournament. In fact, I should say Arakchi is one of the best players I've watched, in the last couple of years. I actually gave him the nickname the Ginobili, Manu Ginobili of Lebanon, because when you watch him, you kind of see it. He kind of plays like, in a way, Manu Ginobili used to play back in the day. So he's basically a little bit more dominant version of Ginobili from San Antonio Spurs back in the day. So Iraq is like a league of his own. He's such a dominant player. He can score. He can, he knows what he needs to do. If he needs to score, he scores. If he needs to pass, he passes. I mean, yesterday he scored how many points? Let me just check. I think it was 30 something points. Let me see. Okay, right, 32 points exactly. So he scored 32 points. But the good part, the part I liked about Arashi is he knows what kind of score that he's going to do during the game. I mean, if the team requires 3 points, he shoots the 3 points. If a team requires, like a drive into the basket, he drives, he scores like that. So he's he knows what his team needs and acts accordingly. So that's what I like about Arakshi. I mean, to compare with Dar Tucker, Tucker is a little bit more of a pure scorer. Tucker just is a guy, he gets the ball, scores. But Arakshi kind of uses his head a little bit more. Like I said, Arakshi is a mixture of Ginobili and Dragic, right? So he's like Lebanon's Dragic and Ginobili, and one of the best players, I think, in the team. Also, of course, when talking about the Lebanon team, we should talk about their naturalized player, Arlich. Again, very good player. In fact, Arlich was a big reason they won the game. He did the final block in the last possession when China was shooting the 3-point to tie the game. One thing, of course, I should note about Arakshi's performance yesterday. Arakshi was actually nearly also, while he had a very good game, he was also costing Lebanon. He could have cost Lebanon the game as well, because he took a very, I should say, immature technical foul during the game. I would actually like to talk a little bit about this technical foul issue in the current Asia Cup. I mean, I get the idea of the referees. They want to kind of keep the discipline intact during the games. But if you want my personal opinion, I think they were getting a little bit ridiculous about the technical fouls during the games. I mean, it became like such a situation, like players couldn't even vent their emotions. I think basketball players, sometimes they need to just release their emotions during the game. I mean, as long as they do it, not in a violent way towards the other player, but towards themselves. I think it shouldn't be a problem, to vent off some of that emotion. So that's why I wasn't too fond of the refereeing or the the easy giving of the technical fouls during some of the competitions. I mean, in one match, China, I think it was against Bahrain. They barely managed to win that game, and the referee actually threw out, suspended, disqualified two Chinese players, two very important Chinese players. So they had a very difficult game as a result. So, and I think also a New Zealand player was also ejected in another game. So I think, ejection in a basketball game shouldn't be so easy. I mean, yes, I understand they should keep the discipline, but also they shouldn't, rely so easily on their ability to give technical fouls, the referee. So I think this is an important point. So a little bit more, emotions in the player is not a bad thing, I think, so shows that they're human. That's my personal opinion. So to return back to the Lebanon-China game, yeah, Arakshi was actually nearly costing Lebanon the game, because when he got the technical, I think it was during the second or third quarter. I think it was in the third quarter. So he got his fourth foul, and he had to stay in the bench for quite some time. And when he stayed in the bench, that was the time when China actually caught up with. Caught up with Lebanon during the game. So, and in the end, it became kind of touch and go there for Lebanon for a while. When China actually managed to draw the game, they couldn't actually get the last shot. So, Arlich's role there was very important with the block. Again, some other players in the Lebanon team, like El Darvish. El Darvish is a player I like. He's a very explosive player. He can explode to the basket. He can get the dunk. Actually, some of the leaping abilities of these players in Jordan and Lebanon teams surprised me. I didn't expect them, to rise so high. I think in Iran as well, they have some players like this. I mean, they have guards who can dunk the ball. El Darvish is one of these. El Havas, I think, Abu Havas from Jordan, also another one of these kind of players who have like a surprisingly for me at least, jumping ability and dunking ability. So I like it when they can just run to the basket and dunk the ball inside, because it makes the visual aspects of the game better. You want to watch it a bit more when you can see that players like El Darvish or Abu Havas, can just even though they're like shorter players, they can dunk really well. Like that. Also, of course, when talking about Lebanon, we should not forget to mention the player Gökçen. Gökçen is perhaps the biggest surprise of the tournament. Surprise player is Gökçen. I mean, he was such a solid 3-point shooter. I probably one of the best of the tournament. And for a big player, he's a big player. He's, I think, over 2 meters tall, and it was such a surprise. You could say such a revelation to see his very efficient stroke, very efficient 3-point shooting. So that was a surprise. But he didn't play too well in the quarterfinal game. But in the previous games, he scored like really critical 3 points. So and he actually scored them in the very critical points for Lebanon. So again, that was a big he played a big role. So like I said, in general, so to sum up the Lebanon team in general was a very, very big surprise, is a big surprise, and it's still continuing to be a big surprise for me in this tournament, and definitely in the future tournaments, future competitions, I will be watching Lebanon with more interest, and if they continue their momentum, I think they have the ability, they can have the ability to reach better places, and especially with the leadership of Arakshi, they will I can foresee that they have a really big possibility to reach, in the World Cup or in another tournament, reach a better place. So for other teams, I think the biggest lesson they should take from Lebanon is, definitely don't underestimate Lebanon. If you do that, you will lose your matches with them. Lebanon is a good, solid basketball team. And now to look at the Chinese team, of course, China was a little bit unlucky. I should say, especially in those group games where they got their 2 players ejected. In the first game, I think in their first group game they couldn't play their 2 big men, Wang Zhejian and the other guy Q Zhu. I don't know. My Chinese pronunciations probably are bad, so again, I apologize to if any Chinese people are watching this. I apologize for them. I don't know how you really pronounce the Chinese names, but I'm going to pronounce it like in a westernized way. So again, sorry about that if I'm not pronouncing them correctly. So yeah, their big names couldn't play in their first game. I think it was against Korea. So they lost that game, but they came back. I think the biggest role for this China team was the role of Qzhu. Qzhu, of course, again played in the NBA. Very tall center, very dominant center. He played a good game in the quarterfinal. But his biggest problem was free throw shooting. I mean, he missed about, I think, 7, 8 free throws. If he made those, if you look at the end of the score of the match, 72-69. If actually Kyushu had made those free throws, a little bit more, China probably could have won the game. So again, this shows how important actually free throws are. If you look at the complete basketball match, some people just dismiss, free throws. What are they? They're actually very important. 3 points. Basically, so if you miss the free throws, and if you lose a game in such a close margin, they play a big role. So unfortunately, yesterday's quarterfinal game, yeah, this happened. They basically played a big role for China's loss in the game. But one thing I recognize about the Chinese team, especially yesterday in the quarterfinal game, they were very impatient for some reason. I don't know. I mean, from the start of the game, well, what I realized is that they were all constantly rushing in the game. You know, they were running. I think maybe this was a tactic, but I don't think this was a very effective tactic, especially for a team like Lebanon, who themselves like to run. You know, I think it would have been better if during the game China actually managed to, you know, just take a breather. You know, relax in the offense, especially. You know, relax, take a breather. Don't look for the early shots. You know, just play like an effective set game. I think maybe that would have worked better against Lebanon, because Lebanon also, you know, Lebanon is a team, especially guys like Arakshi, guys like Eldarvich. They like to run, you know. So I don't think the running and the impatience of the Chinese team really helped them, you know. So they had to, I think, they had to settle down a little bit more, you know, play a little bit more relaxed game, find the best shot. They couldn't find the best shot. I think this is the reason why they couldn't make really too much 3 pointers in the game in the quarterfinal, because they basically took the first shot that came to them. And if they could, you know, pass the ball around, you know, find the more effective open player, I think their 3 pointers would have dropped much more. I think they have the guy Gu, who was a very effective 3-point shooter until this game, and they couldn't really find him. Of course, Lebanon also defended them quite well as well. But like I said, I think one of the biggest reasons for this was the impatience of the Chinese offense, and not only the offense, in the defense. I also recognized the same thing as well. They were very impatient in the defense and impatient in the offense, so they had to take a breather. I think. I think in terms of the teams who does this patient offense effectively, I think we could say Jordan and Korea are actually doing this effectively, right? So like that. So again, basically China needed to take a breather. Like I said, Kyushu played effectively. I expected more from Wang Zheling. He didn't play very effectively during the quarter final game. Again, the 3-point shooter, didn't play effectively. Gu, sorry, didn't play effectively. So China basically only in terms of scoring relied on Kyushu. So that's why, because they couldn't really, parcel their scoring. That's why they couldn't really, score the points, score the basketball too much. I mean, I remember during one of the timeouts, there was like a statistic in the screen, and it said something like Kyushu top scorers, and Kyushu had like 22 points, and the nearest to him had like 9 points. So that was the problem of China. They couldn't only they shouldn't have only relied on a single person for scoring. They should have narrowed or basically separated the scoring more amongst the team. They couldn't do that, so I think that was a big part. Again, that was a big part of why they lost the game, because if you only rely on a single player, it doesn't really work in a basketball game. Yeah, they can score 30, 40 points, but if it's only one player, there's only so much that player can do, to win the game. And this is what happened for China. China was unfortunate, but I think China should again keep up their hopes. I think they should learn to keep their emotions in check as well, because they're actually one of those teams who can't really keep their emotions. That's why they get their technicals. And if they in the future, if they manage to keep their emotions in check, find more scorers in the team, and not only rely on the big guys, Van Gelen or Kyushu, they will have a very effective team. They shouldn't lose hope. I relate China's loss to Lebanon being the better team, and to their being unlucky, basically, right? So they should work hard, and I believe that they have a big chance in the upcoming World Cup. If they can qualify. I don't know if they qualified for certain yet. I have to check that. And if they play in the World Cup, I think they still have. I mean, China, like I said, it's a big name. You can't ever dismiss China in basketball. like that. So again, that's all for my reviews today. So to look at the games, quarterfinal games in the Asia Cup for today. Today we have the matches between. So this is 22nd of July. So if people are watching in different time zones, so in the 22nd of July, the quarterfinal games are going to be between Australia and Japan and South Korea and New Zealand. Both of them are, I think, going to be very good games. If I have to take a guess about what can happen in these games, the first game, Australia Japan, it's very difficult to say. Very difficult to say. It's a very difficult to really say who can win this game. It might be one of the games that can go to overtime. Very close game. Australia. I think personally Australia will win. Australia is a little bit more of a. I think the reason Australia will win will be because of their physicality. Australia likes to play physical. Attack the basket. They like to push and shove the guys, do the hustle. And when you play physically, Japan kind of they can get their players can get injured. Of course, we don't know the situation of Watanabe. Watanabe is very important for Japan. He got injured in the last game. If he doesn't play, especially or if he plays in a limited capacity, it will be very I think disadvantages for Japan. Watanabe plays a big role. He's like the team leader. He's basically their NBA guy. Because Hachimura is not here, he's their game leader. So especially if I think we can easily say that if Watanabe doesn't play for Japan, Japan's chances really diminish. They have to do something like their 3-point shooting game against Syria, and I think that will be very difficult to do. I think also the guards of Japan, Suda, Konagawa, they should play more effectively. And if Watanabe doesn't play, they should be able to make the scoring, spread the scoring around. Guys like Evans, guys like other guys, Turves. They should the guards. They should take over the scoring. Suda, they should take over the scoring of Watanabe. In terms of Australia, like I said, Australia, they don't have their major players here. There's no Patty Mills, no Joe Ingles, no Burns, Andrew Burns, guys like that. So, but I'm impressed with their younger squad here. They have some very good names. Froling, I think their center Froling is impressed me very much. Froling, guys like that. If you want my opinion, I think Australia is closer to winning this game, but like I said, if Japan could find a way to close close the gap, and especially if they can find if Watanabe doesn't play, and if they can find a way to make the other guys play the role of Watanabe, Japan can be in the game. But I feel like Australia is going to be the winner here. And the second game, South Korea, New Zealand, again, is going to be an excellent game. I love New Zealand. Every time they do the haka before a game. Again, New Zealand, they have a younger squad here. They don't have some of their main guys. The Webster brothers are not here. Ty Vineyard is not here. I'm very impressed with Perry Cameron. He's a legend in the coach of New Zealand. Perry Cameron, he's a legend of New Zealand basketball for the Tall Blacks, and I'm impressed with his son. His son is a really, really impressive player. He really impressed me in this tournament. He's becoming slowly becoming a leader of this team, and he's only 19 years old, I think, and he's got a very, very good future ahead of him. Probably as good as his father, I should say. So I'm impressed with that. I'm impressed with the New Zealand squad. Again, they like to hustle. They like to play a physical game in general. And if they can maintain their physicality at the same time, make their shots, they should be in this game. Again, they also had an injured player, Sam Timmins. I don't know about his situation. If he can Timmins is a big plays a big role for them. He's their starting center basically. So if Timmins can play, it will be it will be very effective for New Zealand. And if Timmins can't play, they have Mananga. Mananga is a kind of like a all-around center, big guy. He can shoot the three. He can also do the hustle be underneath the basket. So again, Mananga is not a bad player. So if Timmins doesn't play, I think Mananga will take over the role very effectively. Of course, there is also Taylor Britt, their point guard, very effective guy. By the way, I should say I'm actually following the New Zealand Basketball League. If you want to watch it, I'm actually not going to share videos again, because in my previous video, if I share videos in my video feed, it doesn't work very effectively. So if you want videos, I will just give the links, links in my YouTube comments. So I'm actually following the New Zealand League from the FIBA YouTube channel. Guys, if you're not following FIBA YouTube channel, you really should. They're sometimes, they're giving some very good basketball matches. They're giving them live and for free. So if you're a basketball fan, I suggest you should definitely check out the FIBA FIBA website. Some of the matches that they give there, they're like live matches, are very good, and they're also giving the full season of the New Zealand League and New Zealand Basketball League. And one reason why I follow the New Zealand Basketball League is because I enjoy them. It kind of takes me back to the basketball of the 90s. It's a much more tough game they play there. Much more physical, much more people. Players. Aren't afraid to go at the other players. So that's why I enjoy the game. I mean, it might not be too how shall I say, um, efficient basketball or too nice to watch basketball, but I like the physicality of the New Zealand league. So that's why I follow it. It's not a league where, you have guys shooting hundreds or hundreds of 3 points in a game. No, it's a physical, they play a physical game, and, I basically enjoy this physical game. That's why I follow them. And, if you want to, basically travel back to the 90s style of basketball, you should also check out the New Zealand League from the FIBA basketball channel here on YouTube. So, some of the matches are actually quite good. That's why some of the New Zealand's roster were familiar to me. Guys like Taylor Britt, guys like Taylor Britt, Hunt, those were guys I followed from the New Zealand league as well. So New Zealand has a chance. South Korea is a very interesting team. They remind me a little bit of Lebanon, very systematic team. Everybody knows what they do. I love Korea. I love, Korea is one of those teams that not a single player dominates. At a game, different players can rise up. They can score. They can, play the physical game. They have their naturalized player Gunnar Ra, a very effective player again. It's going to be a very close game, especially between Korea and New Zealand. If New Zealand can drain their shots, I think they have a chance. And if they can actually defend themselves against the physicality of the Koreans as well, they have a chance. I think New Zealand needs to a little bit slow the game down to win it. Korea likes to run. If Korea runs, the transition offense, they can win the game. But it's going to be a close game, so I can't be for certain. But because of my fondness for New Zealand, I would like New Zealand to win, but I think Korea has a very, very big chance in this game as well. So it's going to be a very good game. Again, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, whoever is watching, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to my reviews. I hope you enjoyed them. And, if you want if you have any questions, if you have any opinions, write them down on your on the comments. I should in my other videos, I would like to maybe answer some of your questions. By the way, before I leave, I want to ask a question, guys. So you can give me the answer in the comments sections. Who do you think? This is the traditional question that many basketball fans ask. Who do you think? So this is my question. Who do you think was the best dunker in the NBA? Throughout the years. You can tell me. You can give me any name. You can write the name on the comments. I'm a guy who watched dunkers like Sean Kemp, Vince Carter, T Mac. Guys like that. So I should say, in my opinion, the best dunker in the NBA was and is always going to be Vince Carter. But I would like to hear your opinions. Who do you think was the best ever dunker in the NBA? You can give me your different names here. I would appreciate it. You can also give me, some of the modern guys as well. I don't know. I don't follow many of the modern dunkers. But one thing I would very much have liked to see was actually a dunk contest between Vince Carter and Sean Kemp. That would have been such a thrilling dunk contest. If they ever could have participated in a dunk contest between each other. I mean, if I say Vince Carter was the best dunker, I said Kemp was probably the second. Sean Kemp was probably the second best dunker in the NBA. So that's one of the things that I wish we could have seen. A dunk contest, slam dunk contest between Sean Kemp and Vince Carter, right? So yeah, you can write me your answers on the comments. Who do you think is or was the best dunker in the NBA? My answer, Vince Carter. Vince Carter is a legend, legendary dunker, and I don't think anyone can beat Vince Carter. But if you have any other opinions, any other names, you can just write them down. So again, thanks for listening, everybody. The Alpinites, the king is here, king of the Alps, and I will return, with my reviews of the semifinal games in the Asia Cup as well. And by the way, if you want me to review any other games, any other basketball matches around, you can just send me a link, or write me through in the comments, and I would try to review them. And if you enjoy my reviews, thanks again. You can subscribe to my page. I will try to create more videos, more review videos in the upcoming days again. So thanks for listening and watching, guys, and see you later.